Why is it so that in a maize field where I used to get 100 mounds per acre, I can only realize 90 mounds per acre now? How to control potato scab in my field? And in a particular field, I have the problem of weed infestation. How to avoid that? These are some of the common questions by farmers which we have to answer as agronomists. And the answer to many of such questions is crop rotation. Crop rotation is an old agronomic or cultural practice that is the key for successful crop production. Crop production is a risky business which depends on a number of factors: environmental factors, biological factors, market factors, and political factors. Successful crop production depends on successful management of cropping systems. A cropping system is defined as the crops, crop sequences, and management techniques used on a particular field during a definite period of time. Two main objectives of a cropping system are to maintain farmer profitability and to improve resource use efficiency at farm level. There are two main approaches of a cropping system: continuous cropping and crop rotation. Continuous cropping is growing the same crop for 2 or more years on the same piece of land. Continuous cropping is practiced where a particular commodity brings higher prices, for example, sugarcane, or where there is well established or assured market system for a particular crop, for example, rice market in the rice wheat system, or where the choice of alternative crops is limited. On the other hand, crop rotation is the technique of growing different crops on the same piece of land during a definite period of years in such a way that the fertility of soil is least affected and profit is maintained. For example, we are growing kharif maize followed by wheat each year. So if we set a 2-year rotation, it could be kharif maize followed by wheat, followed by kharif maize, followed by barsim. So the barsim has rotated or substituted wheat crop. Another rotation could be kharif maize followed by wheat, followed by cotton, followed by barsim. So in this rotation, you see cotton has rotated or substituted maize and barsim has substituted wheat. So this is a temporal arrangement of crops on a particular field. Crop rotation is a planned sequence of crops so that the same piece of land does not get the same crop year after years. Crop rotation also means that the same piece of land receives different crop on a particular farm. For example, if 4 crops, wheat, mustard, linseed and barley, are grown on a farm in 4 different fields A, B, C, so each year the crops are rotated in such a way that a particular field gets a different crop than the previous year or years. This is also crop rotation. So the main objectives of crop rotation are to improve soil fertility, to improve physical condition of the soil, to cover environmental, biological and market risks, to control the buildup of pests such as weeds, insect pests and pathogens, to control erosion, to uh, improve overall nutrition of the family, and to improve water quality. In order to achieve the objectives of crop rotation, we have to follow certain scientific principles of crop rotations. So, starting with the principle one, that is, crops of the same family should not follow each other, because crops of the closely related species uh, share some of the insect pest diseases and nematode problems. So, in particular, while selecting vegetables for gardening, they should be rotated in such a way that the same piece of land doesn't receive the same family crops each year or each season. Second principle is that shallow rooted crops should follow the deep rooted crops. For example, sunflower followed by rice. The deep rooted crops help to scavenge water and nutrients from subsoil layers. So there is differential uptake of nutrients from different soil layers. The decaying of roots also leaves channels in the soil which help improve infiltration of water into the soil. And moreover, the deep roots provide biomass for uh, enhancing microbial activity, and overall the deep rooted crops followed by shallow rooted crops, or shallow rooted crops followed by deep rooted crops, improve the soil structure. Long duration or perennial crops should be followed by seasonal or short duration crop, for example sugarcane followed by cowpea. This helps breaking the pest cycle and the buildup of weeds. In fields where weed infestation is a problem, include fodder crops such as berseem, which are multi-cut and help to control weeds, or weed-resistant crops such as sorghum. Follow a legume forage crop such as berseem with a high nitrogen requirement crop such as rice or cotton to take advantage of the nitrogen supply. Replace the crops which have become susceptible to a certain pest. For example, stalk rot in maize, scab in potato, red rot in sugarcane, or rice stem borer problem, potato beetle or maize rootworm problem can be cured by skipping the crop for one or more seasons. This helps break the pest cycle and reduce the buildup of uh, insect pests, pathogens, and weeds. Weeds can be suppressed by growing the small grain crops or uh, row crops which allow intercultivation. In situations where certain nematodes are problematic, such as root knot nematodes affecting carrots or lettuce, then grow the non-host crops such as grain crops. The exhaustive crops should be followed by restorative crops. The exhaustive crops such as wheat, rice, maize belonging to the Poaceae family extract the excess amount of nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash from the soil and hence reduce the soil fertility. Whereas the restorative crops such as legumes fix the atmospheric nitrogen and add organic matter uh, to the soil when plowed under. So either cereal crops should follow the legumes or include a green manure legume in the rotation. In order to enhance the sustainability of rice wheat system, it is highly recommended to sow a green manure crop such as susbania after harvesting wheat and before sowing of rice. This will help to enhance the sustainability and productivity of our rice wheat system. In order to improve the organic matter status of soil, grow the deep rooted crops such as sorghum or maize. The high residue crops such as sorghum must not be followed by a high nitrogen crop because the high root biomass of sorghum uh, also has a high CN ratio. So this may have problems for nitrogen availability in succeeding crop. In dryland system include the low delta crops such as wheat, which can be raised on the stored soil moisture, and avoid the high water requirement crops such as sunflower, which can deplete the soil of limited water or limited amount of stored water, uh, so that the succeeding crop will suffer. And in order to solve the erosion problem, grow cover or catch crops during the fallow period, and grow a perennial forage legume in combination with other crops. So growing a perennial forage legume on sloping land in strip cropping system will help to conserve the soil by controlling erosion and increasing infiltration and reducing the runoff. In dryland system, the cover crops or catch crops during the fallow period helps to increase the water infiltration, and also uh, they reduce the nitrogen leaching, thus improving the soil water quality. Despite all the benefits of crop rotation, there are certain limitations which constrain the adoption of complex crop rotations by farmers. These limitations are busy farm schedule, as the crops after crops are grown and there is short time for land preparation. This busy farm schedule also requires certain managerial skills. For example, managing labor and adjusting the sowing and harvesting of crops at the same time. So, farmers are not very skilled for all crops. Another problem is the residual toxicity of some crops, such as sorghum, which affect the succeeding crop adversely. And there is also problem in cleaning of stubbles, and the lack of post harvest technology of some crops is also one of the major constraints or limitations of crop rotation. Here are some of the common rotations followed in the irrigated cropping systems and in the rain fed or dryland farming systems. Crop rotation is an excellent option for surprising insect pests, pathogens, and weeds. There are a number of options available for crop rotation, and the choice of different rotations depend upon the soil climatic conditions and socioeconomic characteristics of the farmer. Crop rotation will become an important tool and already receiving the increasing attention in organic farming as well as in dryland farming.